Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. I wanted to try something a little bit different today. One thing that I've kind of been putting together in the background that I hope to release in the next week or so is really more of like a buying guide to soccer cards. So how to figure out which players to target, how to figure out what cards to buy, what resources to leverage. And one thing I thought might be helpful in advance of that is just to kind of walk through at a high level how to think about sourcing a list of prospects or researching prospects, researching potentially high valuable soccer players, and then understanding briefly, quickly, like what is their market, right? So I want to share something that I started doing that I found at least very helpful for me. Obviously not a one-size-fits-all approach, but hopefully this could at least be illuminating to some of you and might help you understand like how to look for various players. So the website that I'm on right now is Transfermarkt. This website includes a ton of information, including transfer news. But one thing I want to highlight today is the market values tab. So if you go to market values, and let's say we go to the Premier League here really quickly. So what this actually shows is, if you scroll down, it'll show you the highest valued players in the Premier League. So here you can see we have Erling Haaland, 165 million, Mohamed Salah, 99 million. And it shows you everything from their current estimated market value, their age, what club they're at. And then if you click on one, so if you click on like Erling Haaland, it'll show all sorts of stats, including this piece right here, which will show you like what team he was at and then like how his market value has trended over time. Obviously, it's no surprise that Erling Haaland is one of the best players in the world and has been a pretty hyped prospect for a while. But I mean, if you look at this chart right here, in September of 2019, his market value was 13 million when he played with Red Bull Salzburg. And if this is somebody that you could have identified back then and gotten into his cards or stickers, obviously, you could have ridden those values pretty sky high, especially with the overall boom of the soccer card and sports card market. So if I go back to this page, I just want to show kind of like a tip and trick that I do when I'm thinking about targeting different players. And I'll use the Premier League as an example just because it's the league I follow most closely as a Liverpool fan. But one thing you can also do in these top transfer value or top market values listings is you can filter them. So what I like to do is, if I'm thinking of like prospects, I might look at under 23. And then what this will do is it'll show me the same list, but it'll filter out everybody who's 23 or older. So if we're thinking about like prospects and like who are the potential prospects to that we can be looking to get into, this is one way to do it. If you really want to prospect super hard, you can go to under 19. And as you can see, this is actually probably a good example. As you can see in the under 19 list for the Premier League, not a lot of people, although we have Carney here who actually just made his transfer to Chelsea. So if you were looking at this list, a month ago and saw him, you could have looked to identify some of his rookie cards, which I'll show in a minute, and then, could have been a play, especially leading up to, his big Chelsea transfer. So why don't we actually start with him? The Premier League doesn't have a lot of under 19 players, solely because I think the nature of the league being so tough, often players will transfer from other clubs into the Premier League. But let's start with Carney, for example. So basically, you can see he's valued at 6.6 million. I think he just transferred to Chelsea for, I want to say it was like 19.8 million. And you can see right here that his market value has been pretty low. So obviously there's going to be a jump here, basically a 3x jump from his current market value. But one thing that I'll do is I'll start on Transfermarkt and I'll find players. The other thing you can kind of do is you can do positions. Maybe you want to focus on midfielders or strikers. But in this case, we'll just stick with this list. One thing I'll do. So let's say we saw this and we're like, we identified Carney as a big transfer or like a big like a prospect that we wanted to check out. So what I would do is I basically go to this other website called Trading Card Database, which basically allows you to search for any player. Sorry, I need to make sure I get the spelling right here. Chukwuemeka. So you can search for any player. So here we have right here. And what this will do is it'll show you how many cards they have. It also shows you by year. So here it looks like his oldest cards are from 2021, 2022, and he has 121 of them. Now, what this shows you is that it will show you pretty much any card that he has from that year. It's not, you would have to go through each one to see if they're all rookie cards. And you can also see that there's a lot of like Absolute Premier League Green, Absolute Premier League Platinum. So it's all the variations too. So like this 121 is basically every different variation of a card that he has from 2021-22. So you could basically interpret this number as he has 121 different rookie card variations. Okay. And then what you could do is you could go through each one and see, just get a sense of like what's the print run. It looks like he has quite a few Chronicles. Looks like he has some Mosaic Premier League, and I believe he's also in Obsidian, right? So what I would do if I was looking at this is potentially say like, well, 121 different rookie card variations. That's just different variations. That's not even total print run. You could map this out and say like, okay, how many of 99, how many of 150, etc., to get a sense of like what is the total, even total like numbered parallels that he would have. But given that there's 121 different cards, I would say that that's pretty high. So that might not be somebody that I would focus on just from a scarcity standpoint, right? If we go back to Transfermarkt, and let's go back to under 23, and let's just look at I'll just look at a couple of examples of guys that you may have been able to find. Actually, let me do 23 to 30 just because there's a couple of good examples here. So one good example that you may have been able to find, let's say like a year ago if you were doing this, is Darwin Nunez. So here we have Darwin Nunez, Liverpool. He just turned 23, and he's valued at around 60 million. If we click on Darwin Nunez, you can see his value has, where'd it go? Market value details. Here we go. So it was hanging out around 27 million, and then he had a great year with Benfica, and then he started getting transfer hype to Liverpool, and then he got transferred to Liverpool, and here we are. Now his market value is at 60. But if you were looking at this around a year ago, you would have seen someone in the Portuguese league valued at around 22 million, and if you looked into his underlying stats, you would see that he was scoring a lot of goals. And so if you went to the trading card database and looked up Darwin Nunez, I think he's the first one. Nope. Or wait, is this? Nope. I think he's the fourth one. For the fifth one. Nunez. Okay. So here's Darwin Nunez. You can see 51 total cards. If we go to 2020, this is interesting. He has a Topps on-demand set summer signings card from 2020. If we go to 2020, 2021, it looks like he has 14 cards. And if you look at all of these, I believe they're all Panini Obsidian parallels, plus the Match Attacks cards. So Match Attacks, I know, aren't necessarily looked at as like true rookie cards. It's more of a trading card game. We can get into that in a different video. But basically, if you were looking at this, you'd be like, oh, Darwin Nunez only has Panini Obsidian for his rookie year. If you look up the Panini Obsidian card, there's only about, I think including the team all, there's only about 500 variations. So then, to me, this is somebody, total 14 cards, they're all the same set. This is somebody that would have been highly investable if you were able to get into this, get into him, earlier in that year. So that's another good example of somebody who obviously has quite a bit of hype now. I think his market has reflected some of his hype and expectations as well. But that's just something you can, that's something you can do where Transfermarkt, I think, is a good way to kind of show. I mean, yeah, obviously Haaland, Foden, like a lot of these guys are pretty household names. And frankly, the Premier League's probably not the best league to do this with, just because by the time guys are in the Premier League, they either already had a big transfer that would have had hype around it, like Darwin Nunez, or, even guys like Martinelli, Saka, Jadon Sancho a couple of years ago. Like all these guys have kind of already had their hype moments. And so it's kind of, I mean, you could look at guys like, Pedro Neto, Mark Guehi from Crystal Palace. He's a center back, right? So that's where you probably want to maybe look at strikers. and redo it like this. So we have, we have Martinelli, we have Pedro Neto, Julian Alvarez, who just transferred to, City. He's another one that maybe you could look up and say, okay, what cards does Julian Alvarez have? Knowing that, especially interestingly, because he came from Argentina. And so, yeah, you can see here, this is interesting. So we have a 2019-2020 Panini Adrenaline FIFA 365. Looks to be, his oldest release in 2020. He looks to have a Panini FIFA 365 sticker. Again, though, would that be considered a true rookie? I don't know. 2020, 2021, more Adrenaline. So he hasn't really even had a Panini or Topps, quote unquote rookie card badge release yet. So he could be somebody that, as we move forward into future sets, we could keep an eye on. Now, I do suspect, though, that, since he plays for City, he'll be in Topps Chrome Champions League. He'll be in Topps Chrome Finest. He'll be in Topps Chrome Stadium Club. Like, he's one, like Carney, like Jude Bellingham. If you look at Jude Bellingham's another, or like Pedri. Those are some other guys where, if you just look at how many cards these guys have, Pedri's kind of like the classic example. 827 cards. If you look back to 2020, he's got the Topps Living set, which is an on-demand card. Look at the 2020, 2021, which is his quote-unquote rookie year, 256 different rookie cards. And then you'd have to factor in, like I said, just the number of variations for each of those. So right there, that's pretty unwieldy. And then if we do Jude Bellingham, we're going to see a similar story because he's with Dortmund. If you go back to his, he's also got the Living set and some of the Topps on Demand sets. But then if you look at 371 different rookie card releases for 2020, 2021 for Jude Bellingham. So, and I think that's not to say Jude Bellingham's not investable. He's obviously a great prospect. It's just, this is a good way that I like to go through potential prospects based on current market values and market value history, and then cross-reference prospects and players that I see on this list with, their total number of trading card sets. And this is kind of how I use as like the basis to then determine like, where do I want to dive deeper on players that look like they might have some scarcity in terms of their rookie cards. So that's it for today. I just wanted to do a quick video just to kind of walk through that process. Let me know what you think. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks. Bye.